Hey, it's your contrarian soul guide, Dawn, and you're listening to Sovereignty Rising, the space where we unlearn the fear and reclaim the flame. You were told to become more, be better, be good, be spiritual, be productive, be perfect. And what if your next evolution isn't about becoming anything? What if the real magic is in the unlearning, letting go of what was never you? Releasing the identities you built just to survive, peeling off the masks that helped you feel safe but are now keeping you small. This is the truth. You don't need more strategy. You need to remember you need to remember who you were before the world told you who to be. Welcome to Sovereignty Rising. Ditch the fear, embrace your flame. I'm Dawn Elgin, contrarian soul guide, visionary mystic, and creatrix of practical spiritualism. And this is the space where we strip away the fear, burn the old stories down, and reclaim the power that was never truly lost, just buried. Here, we dive into raw, unfiltered conversations on emotional healing, spiritual awakening, and the art of unlearning. Everything that keeps you stuck, small, and disconnected from your truth. Together, we rise like phoenixes. Flame first, fear last. Let's rise together. So let's be clear. You're not a project. You're a portal. Let's call it out. You're not broken. You don't need more fixing. You need space to unlearn everything that told you you weren't enough to begin with. All the things you've called growth, a lot of them have been adaptations. People-pleasing masked as kindness. Hustle masked as ambition. Hyper-independence masked as strength. Emotional shutdown masked as boundaries. You didn't choose these patterns to be enlightened. You chose them to survive. Unlearning is how we come home. So understand, letting go isn't weak. It's warrior work. The reason letting go is so hard, well, because everything you're being asked to release once kept you safe. That relationship, that identity, that coping strategy. And there's a part of you that still believes, if I let go, who will I be? What if I can't trust what comes next? What if I'm too much without this? Letting go isn't giving up. It's choosing yourself. It's making room for what's real. As Martha Beck says in The Way of Integrity, you'll know you're on the path of truth when you start to feel peace, even if things get messy. The unlearning process is a sacred rebellion. This is where it gets real. Unlearning doesn't look like perfect morning routine. It looks like crying on the floor because a truth finally cracked you open. And yeah, I've done that. Saying no and shaking with guilt, but still saying it. And yes, I've done this too, more times than I can count. It's realizing you don't resonate with who you've been, and that's okay. This is soul work. It's not clean. It's not cute, but it is liberating. And this is exactly what we'll walk through together in the Unlearning, my free 5-day bootcamp that begins on June 9th. Today, let's try an embodiment practice. Who was I before the conditioning? Go ahead and get comfy. Let's drop in, and if you're in a safe space, close your eyes. Take a breath, come into the body, and ask, who was I before the world taught me how to behave? What parts of me have I exiled to be accepted? What part of me is ready to come back online? Now breathe again and say to yourself, I release what no longer serves me. I release the version of me I created to survive. I am safe to be real now. Let the breath soften you. Let it be enough for today. So, my first unlearning, there was a time when I was trying to do all the right things. It was after my brain injury, after my accidents, and I was listening to a lot of Pema Chodron and Wayne Dyer. I was meditating, walking, trying to heal, really. And honestly, I was scared. I was terrified, really, that I would never get better. Now, as I was going through all of this, I started having a lot of strange, mystical experiences. And at the time, I didn't really understand what was going on. And there were times I actually thought I was going crazy. I was even scared with what I was going through on that journey. And one of the things that happened to me is I had a book arrive on my phone that I had never heard of. And it was on my Audible. And the book was called Advanced Energy Anatomy by Carolyn Mace. Now, I'd never heard of Carolyn Mace. I hadn't heard of her work, not really the circle of stuff that I was in. And all of a sudden, here's this book, and I start listening to it. And the interesting thing about this book is my phone, my Audible, would only work if I listened to that book. If I was try to go back to a different book, it would keep freezing, nothing would work properly. But if I listened to that book, it wasn't a problem. So I would listen to it and I started to question, like, why am I having to listen to this? I'm not into chakras. I'm not into energy medicine. Like, this isn't for me. What are you trying to tell me? And yet, intuitively, I knew that there was something about this book that I needed to learn, I needed to understand. And this book would actually become the foundation for all of my work that I do now, which is interesting when we look back at these weird experiences through that lens. And so in this book, Carolyn Mace talks and teaches on the 7 principles of co creation. And in these principles, they were really what cracked me open into my own unlearning, where I started to understand who I am and why I am the way that I am. And so the first principle is thoughts create form. And for every choice, there's a consequence. So, this would be a foundation piece for me to understand downward causation, to understand that, even support the work I was understanding from Joe Dispenza. So in there, we have a thought, and then there's an emotion, and then there is a physical experience, whether that's a feeling in our body. So we have a thought that takes us out of alignment with our soul. We have a feeling of, or an emotion of anxiety, and then we get the feeling of anxiety in our body. So that churning maybe in your stomach, rapid heart rate. The other way that you can think of this is thought creates form is somebody cuts you off and you think, what a dick. And then you get angry and then you flip them the bird or speed up or hang your brakes. And so the thought comes first and then everything else ripples from there. And then every choice, there's a consequence. So even in the choice to not pause, then there's a consequence for flipping somebody the bird or maybe speeding up or cutting somebody off. So there's always a consequence for whatever we choose to do. So thought creates form, and we need to be aware of our thoughts. They come actually from our beliefs. And so it's our job to become aware of our thoughts and then choose, either re-choose a new thought or there's a consequence as it moves into form. The second principle is magnetic attraction. Now, I think magnetic attraction is probably the one that gets talked about the most. And we think of it as, be the vibe of the tribe you want to attract. But magnetic attraction is actually quite fascinating because it goes back into those thought forms and beliefs. And so, magnetic attraction, if you have a feeling or a belief that you're unworthy, then you're going to attract experiences to you that show or support that unworthiness. Now, let's be clear. It's not because the thought is true or that belief is true. It's because our higher self, our deeper, most expanded self, is attracting these things to us so that we can become aware of the imbalances, the incongruencies that are within us, so that we can heal them and become really come home, come back to ourselves. So, magnetic attraction is actually a way that our soul helps us unlearn deep programming that is subconscious and we're not aware of. Then the third is the relationship between time, space, and speed. It's probably, all of them I end up saying that's probably my favorite. But I love this one because she speaks of one of my favorite ideas. And it made things so clear when it came to forgiveness, letting go, and unlearning. And that is the relationship between weight and weight. WEIGHT, so the weight of the baggage we carry, equals the weight, WAIT, of healing. So let me say that again. The weight, WEIGHT, of the baggage we carry directly impacts the weight, WAIT, of change, or the speed of change, the speed of healing. Now, this is fascinating. And if you're like, think about it this way. If you put on a 50-pound hiking pack and you walk down the block, you would be slower than you would be if you didn't have that pack on your back and you moved with the same amount of energy. So the weight of our baggage impacts the speed in which we can evolve or change or manifest what it is that we desire. And so you can see how these principles start to link together, how this works with the magnetic attraction. And so it's important for us to keep our spirit in present time. Our baggage holds us back into the past, it slows us down. And we need to keep our spirit in present time. Our soul only is an aspect of in present time. And so every time we pull ourselves into the past and get caught, we create this separation. And it is the separation, the misalignment between our soul and our small self, this physical experience, that creates the feelings of anxiety, of resentment, of fear. And every time we get pulled into the future forecasting, worrying about what's going to happen that hasn't happened yet, the same thing. All of those projections take us out of alignment from our soul, from our higher self. So there's that self with a big S and the self with a small s. And we need to keep those in present time together to feel the experience of peace, which is our birthright. Now, the next principle is every thought, emotion, dynamic is a choice. Now, this really works beautifully when we look at that magnetic attraction. So remember, I said first there's a thought, then there's an emotion, and then there's a dynamic. There's a experience. It becomes a physical form, whether that's a feeling, an action, words, even. So when you think about this, every thought, emotion, and dynamic is a choice. The other thing that I always think about with this is that if I have a feeling inside of me that I'm unworthy, but I want to attract abundance, and I start doing affirmations of I am abundant, I am open to abundance, abundance flows through me. I'm creating this dichotomy because inside in my subconscious is this experience or this belief that I'm not worthy of those things. So, on a subconscious level, there's unworthiness. And on a conscious level, I'm trying to create worthiness. I'm trying to create connection and alignment with this. And those two opposing energies start fighting each other. And we create this experience, this feeling of some people might feel of it like anxiety, but what we're causing is stress. We're causing actually chronic stress. And what we're creating is a sense of dis-ease in the body. So the opposite of that peace. And so it makes us realize that every single thought we think is important. And it's not for us to judge them. It's that we need to be able to be aware of them and choose again if it doesn't align with the person that we want to be, that we choose to be. And so all of these principles help us understand the need and the aspects of our healing journey. And that flows us into the next principle, which is make no judgments, have no expectation, and give up the need to know why things happen as they do. And so, even when we go back to that every thought, emotion, dynamic is a choice, make no judgments. And so, when we have, a thought that doesn't align, we don't need to judge ourselves and make things worse. What we need to simply do is become aware of it. Oh, there's a thought. Is it mine? Does it align with who I want to be? If either of those things are no, then let it go and choose again. That's simple. I'd say it was easy, but it is simple. So make no judgments. And this goes on for other people too. So often we create our own suffering. And remember, pain is inevitable and suffering is optional. And suffering is caused by our thoughts that things should be different than they are. Think about this. You suffer because you think your body should look different than it does, whether that is in its size, its shape, its color, its gender, it doesn't matter. All of those judgments create our suffering. And so thoughts are the base of all of the suffering in our world. So make no judgments, no judgments on other people, what they should or shouldn't be doing, how this world should be. We're always, this is our own journey. We are our only project. We're not a project, but we are our project, our journey, our beautiful creation, really. And then have no expectations. This is where we let go. If we don't have expectations, then we don't feel let down. We don't feel disappointment. Again, suffering. Expectations are always linked to thoughts. And so have no expectations and give up the need to know why things happen as they do. This whole piece was one of my most difficult principles to move through in relation to healing the journey with my mom. I definitely judged her. I believe that parents are supposed to protect their children. Now, I'm not talking about protecting your children in terms of day-to-day stuff. Children need to learn how to do hard things. They need to learn how to become more resilient. That's how resiliency is created. But they are supposed to protect their children from harm in terms of not putting them in the way of harm, whether that is, types of abuse or, well, in my case, we're just talking about types of abuse. And so a parent's job is to protect their child. And then the expectations of her to change, to grow, to heal, to apologize, so much of this stuff caused my sufferings. And when I made those judgments that she should be different than she was, and I had expectations that she should heal and she should behave differently, I'm the one that suffered every single time. And then in the need to give up the need to know why things happen as they do, my driving need to understand why. Why was she like that? Why did she treat me this way? Why was my life this way? Why was it a struggle? Why did I have a mom that didn't seem to love me, no matter what she told other people? And these needs to know why things happened as they did slowed my healing journey down. The moment I gave that up and I stopped thinking my mom should be different than she was, and I stopped expecting our relationship to be different or her to behave certain ways when I saw her. And I let go of the need for her to explain herself to me. When I let all of that go, that was when I began to experience peace. When I began to sit and be able to help her and support her in the last year of her life, going through dementia. And even when the last 9 days of her life where she fell and hit her head, and I sat in the hospital with her. And it was crazy. It was like constant memories coming up, and none of them happy. And all these memories coming up. And I mean, I've done enough work to know that these are memories through the eyes of a child or through the eyes of a teen. And so they're coming up. And the only question I kept asking as she was laying there was, what happened to you? What happened to you? And then I could just love on her. I could kiss her head and tell her it was going to be okay. And when she was ready to let go, that we were good, that I didn't need to forgive her because there was nothing to forgive, that she was free. And in that moment, I was free. There's nothing more beautiful than that moment when you can have complete freedom from the suffering that has been part of your life for decades. I promise you. And then the next is accountability. And the principle of accountability is, I just love it. I absolutely love it. Probably because part of it is it's a signature of sovereignty. You need to be accountable for yourself. It was this principle that helped me understand that if I wanted to take credit for getting out of my first marriage, then I needed to take accountability for getting into it. Now, that doesn't mean blame. It means that I'm responsible and accountable for myself and my choices. I was accountable to myself every single day that I made those choices. And the moment I could take accountability for myself, I got to take full credit for getting out. And so accountability is so powerful. It is radical self responsibility. It is incredibly empowering. And so this principle was a major contributing factor to my entire healing journey and my own evolution. And then the final principle is creation moves in cycles. It's cyclical. And really, it is spiralization. And so not only is it cyclical as we see like with seasons, where there's this constant cycle, the breath, the seasons of the earth, they all show us and remind us that everything is cyclical. But in our healing and our growth, not only does creation move in cycles, it moves in a spiralization. So it's like going up a mountain and we go round and round and round and round. And that's why sometimes it can feel like we're sliding backwards and we don't realize that we're actually still on the path forward. It's just that we've come full circle around the mountain. And we're seeing it again, but we might be seeing it from a slightly different perspective. And so that is really important because at that moment we stop judging ourselves and getting frustrated and we're like, oh, how do I see this slightly different now? It gives us an opportunity to become aware of the journey, to become aware that there is another perspective. And then it even allows us to maybe get a bit excited about the next cycle around that mountain because we'll get to see it from an even different perspective, from an even greater awareness. And that's freaking cool. And so here's this book, and it becomes the base of everything I would learn over the coming, I guess it was like, well, now we're almost 7 years. And this book that I didn't want, that was frustrating me, ends up becoming one of my greatest teachers. I ended up listening and reading almost everything that Carolyn Mace ever wrote. And she became a mentor from a distance. The principles of co-creation helped me understand the importance of unlearning, the importance of letting go. And once I started to understand this, then I could bring it into action. I began letting go of needing to perform, needing to be perfect, needing to be the good one, needing to be all the things I thought I was supposed to be. Letting go of the fear that I'd be alone if I was honest in my friendships and family and relationships. It was the beginning of everything real. So here's what I want you to remember. You don't need to learn more. You don't need to fix more. You need space to come home to the you beneath the performance. And that's what the unlearning is. It's not a challenge. It's like a sacred reset. It's a 5 days of shedding, releasing, coming home, and it's free. We begin June 9th. You already know if this is right for you. So the link is in the show notes. Come walk the fire with me. Until then, ask yourself, what am I still holding on to that I was never meant to carry? And then just start letting go. You're not your patterns. You are the power that's been waiting underneath them. Let's unlearn together. I see the light in you, and it is brilliant. I want you to see it too. You are not broken. You are not too much. You're remembering who you've always been. And this journey is just getting started. If today's episode lit something in you, hit follow so you don't miss what's coming. And if you're feeling it, leave a review. It helps with more soul-led women find this space. Want to go deeper? Come find me on YouTube, Facebook, our private Facebook community, The Awakening Circle, Instagram, TikTok, or at our website, practicalspiritualismco.com, for all the ways we can rise together. Not to worry, all those links are in our show notes. Until next time, stay sovereign, stay bold, and keep that fire lit.